War. War never changes. Even if it's tiny plastic war.
Hey, get out of here. You're not Ron Perlman.
Ooh, gotta go. Hi, I'm Dave. This is Dave's Weird Project, and in today's episode, I'm painting some miniatures of iconic creatures from one of my favorite video game series. Let's take a look. I've been playing Fallout games since there were Fallout games. I didn't play Wasteland, the spiritual precursor, I guess, but I played the first and second one, and Fallout Tactics, I actually like that, and then waited 7 years till Fallout 3 came out. I even got my Pip-Boy lunchbox, the special edition. Fallout New Vegas, that was fantastic, and up to Fallout 4. So when my wife got me Fallout Wasteland Warfare, the 2-player set, for our anniversary, I was super excited. And since I was super excited, I decided I needed to paint the super mutants first. I started with a zenithal highlight on each piece to establish some natural shadows and light, because I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to set up the skin tone on the mutant hounds or on the exposed parts of the super mutants. But I figured good shading would go a long way toward figuring it out. The mutant hounds are pretty uniform. They're going to be whatever brown-green I managed to pull off. The super mutants are actually wearing armor and they have weapons, so that's going to be a little more complicated. But I know I want kind of a rusty reddish brown on all of that stuff. So I decided that brown base coat on all of them was going to be a good idea. I thinned it down quite a bit with glaze medium from Vallejo because I wanted it to flow into the cracks and leave a little bit of that natural highlighting and shading from the zenithal process showing through. Next, I decided to just experiment. I took a pretty basic green and also thinned it down with the glaze medium, although this time quite a bit more. And then I proceeded to put that all over one of the hounds just to see what happened. Even still wet, the result was striking. All the green flowed down into the little valleys and crevices on the creature, and it read as green, but the peaks, all of the bumpy parts, were still showing that brown. So it reads as green, but you really see the brown when you pay attention. It's exactly what I wanted. I was amazingly, pleasantly surprised. So I proceeded with this on the other hound, and then on all the skin tone parts of each of the mutants. Next, I wanted to start working on all the metallic parts for the super mutants to kind of start working up that rusty red color. You might also notice that this looks a little bit different with the camera. It's because I'm trying a new one out. I dry brushed just a basic red over anything that I thought would be metallic. In retrospect, this may not have been the best way to start, but I'm happy with the result at the end. Next, I mixed in a little bit of yellow to that same red, and then added in a metallic gold. I was hoping that this would kind of read as a more rust color. I dry brushed this over all the parts I'd just done with the red. They do have a lot of leather and hide bits as well, so I brought some brown back in to try to reinforce that, but I didn't go with just the straight brown that I used for the base coat. I mixed in a bit of a lighter brown as well to raise the value a little bit and start to make those tan parts stand out. That's all the base coating done on the super mutants. Now I want to come back to the hounds and give them a little attention by starting to work on their teeth. I started with just applying some basic yellow to each tooth, trying not to get down into the cracks in between, but sometimes it gets there anyway. I also went and applied this to one of the mutants that has skulls hanging off his armor. One of the hounds has a big floppy tongue hanging out, so while I waited for the teeth to dry, I took the opportunity to paint that red. I jump back to the super mutants next. I do that a lot, jump around while I wait for something else to dry. Anyway, I jump back to them because I want to try to break up the red and the brown with maybe some darker tone, some darker value. So I mixed up some black and a little bit of a silver metallic and applied that in just a few different spots, just wherever it seemed like maybe there's going to be some darker metal on these guys. Alright, the yellow is finally dry, so I come back in with skeleton bone to bring the skulls and the teeth on the hounds up to the level where I want them. Actually, maybe a little bit too high. So then I use a brown wash to darken them up again, and I think it's good. I think the yellow helped me get good coverage with the skeleton bone, but then the brown wash brings the tone, the overall tone, down to kind of a grungy, gross, it's been chewing on nasty things look. These are starting to look pretty good, pretty tabletop ready, so I decided to do the bases, get those painted in. I started out with a very dark gray and just going over the whole base, except for the rim. That's going to be black at the end. I mean, I'm not worried if I slop over on the edge, but I want to make sure I don't get any on the actual model. I wanted to introduce a little bit of a cooler tone, a blue tone, so I mixed some blue with some gray and applied it as a dry brush to anything that was sort of refined concrete, poured concrete, or big chunks of concrete that had broken off, anything that was man-made and is probably now in ruins. If you've ever played the Fallout games, you'll know that dirt and dust and just kind of brownish detritus is pretty much everywhere. And so I wanted to make sure that some of that got on the bases as well. So I mixed some ground and bray together and dry brushed that onto anything that looks sort of like dirt or mounds of just stuff. And last step, a nice clean black rim on the base. I just like the way this looks. It kind of separates the model from the tabletop, establishes it a piece on its own. I don't know, it's just cool. And here they are, the representatives from Super Mutant Land from the Fallout Wasteland Warfare box set. I'm pretty pleased with how this came out. I was absolutely delighted with the way the skin color came out, with that starting with brown and then layering over it with the green. I think it really shows here, especially on the hounds, how it reads as green, but if you look real close, you see that brown coming through. So those are all done, but we're not done with Fallout yet. There's plenty more miniatures in that box, and I'm also looking to make some terrain to go with them. Suitably post-apocalyptic, messed up disaster terrain. Before I get to the lessons learned, we'll do the standard pleading. If you like this video, please click the like and the subscribe and the share and all of that. If you want to support the channel directly, there's some links down below that Terry makes sure get put in there. My book on Amazon, or some Amazon links to stuff that if you buy it, I get a little cut. You don't pay anything extra. Alright, lessons learned. I do these projects as much to learn something as to make something, so I like to round up what I think I learned at the end. So first thing, I was really pleased with how the skin tone came out on both the Hounds and the Super Mutants. That brown layer with the green layer over it worked out really well, and I had no idea that it was going to. I thought I'd end up having to do a lot of blending, but it just kind of worked. So I guess that lesson is sometimes really simple methods can give amazing results. I'm definitely going to try this again, maybe with other color combinations, to see how it works on other surfaces and other kinds of creatures. But yeah, that was pretty cool. Another lesson was kind of the opposite direction. I was pretty happy with how things turned out overall. However, the red, rusty color on the Super Mutant weapons and armor wasn't exactly what I was envisioning. And so I'd like to do some more research on how to get to where I was going, rather than where I ended up. Where I ended up was fine, I'm happy with it, but it wasn't what I had envisioned to start out. Last thing, I'm pretty pleased with how everything came out, but I do sort of wish that I had been able to do more with the shadows and I guess just deepening the contrast. The zenithal highlight process and all of that, what Dana Howl calls underpainting, I could have done more of that. I basically just did the 2 sprays. I didn't do the other steps that she recommends. If I was going to do a model that I was trying to go all out on, I'd probably try that. And maybe I should have done it here. Maybe these guys deserved a little more. I thought about washes, but when I painted one a little bit into one of the crevices on one of the mutant hounds, it kind of obliterated that green color. So I didn't want to take that risk. So I'm not really sure what else I could have done with them without messing up the paint job that was already there. So thanks for coming along with me on this one. I had fun doing it, and I'm pleased with the results. Next video is actually going to be a little piece of terrain to kind of accompany them. So come back and check that out. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Any suggestions you might have for what I could have done to add more to these guys. And until next time, take care, everybody. First lesson is about paint. They're all about paint. Last thing, I do